So like, yeah, I guess that's basically it. So, yeah, if you guys have like, I will try to like address your queries regarding the internship procedure, like what kind of questions are asked, and like how to prepare a CV, and like what kinds of projects should you have on your resumes and things like that. And like also like whether certain things like code process ratings and things like that, and code CPI, those things matter or not. So yeah, I'll try my best to answer your queries. Or do you, Yash?
यश भाई आप म्यूट हो शायद.
Manu ma'am, could you please say a few words for the audience? Manu ma'am, am I audible?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Actually, I was facing some technical issues. That's why I joined through mobile.
No.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Everyone is doing good.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so let me tell you something about myself. I'm Manu Gupta. I'm from fourth year electrical engineering. I did my internship recently from Microsoft and have also received a PPO in the same. So yeah, that was about me.
Yeah, that's great. So,
So yeah, your
yes, yes, yes.
questions.
Continue, continue.
No, I'm asking. Ask your questions.
Yeah. We are proceeding with the questions. So yeah, let's begin with the today's session. This will be done in two parts, where I will be taking some of the curious questions which are mostly asked during the from the SD aspirants, and next we will take up questions from the audience from the chat. So the audience, please type your questions in the chat box, which I will take up for the panel at the end of the session. So the first question is, as what type of questions are asked in the test for different companies, or what is the test patterns? So any of you can share your experience on different companies.
Yeah, okay, so the test pattern actually differs from company to company. One of the things which are common across most of the companies is their coding problems, obviously, like which are based on data structures and algorithms. But a lot of companies also ask like MCQs on DBMS and groups and sometimes on networking concepts as well. So yeah, and in fact, in some companies, like especially like Goldman Sachs, etc., which like where you're applying for an analyst type position, you will also be asked some like quantitative aptitude based questions, and also like sometimes like English based questions as well. For example, I remember there was a section in Goldman Sachs where you have to like write, it's sort of like a short essay.
भैया your voice is not clear भैया.
Hello, yeah, is it better now? Hello.
Yeah, there is a disturbance in someone's mic.
Well, I'm not really sure.
Where there is some disturbance from the background, so if you can fix it, or otherwise it
Okay,
is.
is it better now? Like I turned off the fan, maybe that was the problem.
Yeah, it is now better. Oh, you can continue.
Yeah, okay. So like I was saying, like the pattern actually differs from company to company, and it also depends on the kind of positions that you're applying to. So like one of the things that are common across most companies is that they will ask you coding problems based on data structures and algorithms, obviously. But other than that, some companies also ask like MCQs based on DBMS and object-oriented programming and things like that, and sometimes on networking as well. And other than that, some companies also ask like some English-based questions and some quantitative aptitude as well. So like the pattern is different for every company, and I would recommend you guys to like look for past experiences on either the portal or GFG before appearing for the test of a company, so you can get a better idea of what kind of questions will be asked.
So Arpit Bhaiya has also joined. So let me give a brief intro about Arpit sir. He is also a final year student in Computer Science and Engineering, and he has done intern at Goldman Sachs. Arpit sir, can you please address the audience?
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone, I'm Arpit. I'm a fourth year CSE student, BTech. So I did my intern in Goldman Sachs this year, and I'm here if you to share my experience with you. And like I was in the same place as you last year, and we were all curious about how the process will be and what kind of things will be there. So today we'll go through that.
Okay, so yeah, the same question to other Manu ma'am and Arpit sir, that what type of questions are asked in the test? If you can have something more to add to what Prakhar sir said.
Like Prakhar addressed most of the things. There are like DBMS, OS, networking. Like they don't focus their major part on that. Competitive programming is the main thing, like DS and algo questions. But they can have a major part of that too. Like if you see in GS, they have around 50% for quant. So if you do good in that part too, then also you will get selected for the interview. So like they will accordingly place you in different profile, but like it's so you can either score 50% or more in the coding part or in the quant part or in both.
So now we continue with, is it necessary to learn complex data structures like AVL trees, red black trees, segment tree, and all these type of advanced structures? Can you throw some light on that?
For internship purposes, I don't think that advanced data structures are required. But it's good if you learn them. Most of these are asked in placements and all. For internships, I would recommend you learn till graphs and segment trees, and I think that will be enough. And segment tree also, I'm saying that it's more than enough. You should be able to master over DP especially, and graphs and all these things are required for internship. You can do these complex like AVL trees and all for later on.
Prakhar sir, would you like to add something?
Like she
Yeah, Arpit sir also. You can.
like she said, like for majority of the companies, like 99% of the companies, you don't need any complex data structure. Even the segmentary, like most of them go up to like C level in the code forces, div to part C. Most of the companies, like some of them may go beyond that, and DP, binary search, like the major problem areas are the only this come there, and some of them ask about graphs as well, but not beyond that, like red black trees and all. You don't need those, and segmentary as well. Like you have a fixed period, and you're not allowed to use code snippets. So
Okay.
think of in that way, like you cannot code a whole segmentary and solve the questions if you're given 4 5 questions in 1 hour. So,
Okay.
but
Uh,
DP, they can go to nice levels in DP with DP as well.
yeah. Prakhar sir, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I will agree with what they said, but I would mention that some companies, especially Sprinkler and Nutanix, do ask questions based on these complex data structures. For example, last year, Nutanix asked a persistent segmentary question in the interviews, and they also are Sprinkler also asked a segmentary question to me in the interviews. So, like for these two companies, you might have to like learn these data structures, but apart from that, most of the companies actually do not ask such complex data structures.
Yagya ma'am has also joined, so let me give a briefing. Yagya ma'am is a CSE final year student, and she has done intern at her. Yagya ma'am, can you address the audience?
Hi guys, I am Yagya from CSE 4th year and I did my intern in Oracle this time and I'm here to address your questions as well.
Okay, so that's great. So we moving on to the next question. So what till what level of competitive programming should we do, or what is the minimum requirement or something, some parameters like this? So that we can get into the top-notch companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and does the rating at Codeforces and other platforms matters? Can you throw some light?
like you will see, you can see your rating as a measurement of how good you are in CP or in some other field. But like it's not compulsory to have a great rating. You can have a good knowledge about things and can answer interview questions. But for the coding part test, like when you have to actually code in a uh, limited time environment like CP. So for that, you need to have a good pace of coding. So it's not like you need 1800 or 2000 rating, but you should be like well versed with coding.
Yeah,
And
exactly what Arpit said actually. Like rating is something that is good to have on your resume, but like other than that, like it doesn't really matter that much. Like even if you don't have a very good rating, you can still bag a very good internship offer if your coding skills are nice. So rating is not compulsory.
If possible, the panel members, can you please switch on your videos? If there is not much network problem, it will be more interactive. Okay, that's it. Yagya ma'am and Manu ma'am, would you like to add something?
I think it's good to have basics clear first. Like if he's talking about that how much DSA we should know, then he should like recursion, backtracking, basic concepts of trees and all. Because they are the first priorities, and how to solve the puzzles, like Code Forces is great in that context, like it has good problems and puzzles and all. So what like Arpit said, that if we are able to total C questions, then it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, same. Correct. Even if you are practicing on
and
lead
all.
code and you're giving lead code contests, then most of the companies ask the level of questions in coding round are same as the lead code contest, or if you compare with code courses level C. So if you are practicing, then most of the time you should be able to do div to C problem. I would say around 50 to 75% time you should be able to solve the C problem. A and B, I think most of you are able to solve. So try to reach C, and it's more than enough for internships. Yeah.
So next we come up with a question on how to begin and what to study. So platforms and study material. Prakhar sir, what we need to start and how to begin.
Like I mean, I guess it depends on like how much time you have left. Like if you have a lot of time, you should like obviously start practicing on code forces. But if you do not have much time left, I would recommend like not going for code forces, but rather practicing on interview bit and lead code, GFG, etc. first, because like the problems that are asked are like not very ad hoc, and code forces contests especially these days have a lot of ad hoc problems, so those kinds of problems are actually not asked in interviews that much, so you won't benefit as much from like practicing on code forces. So like especially like now that you're in the last few days, so like I would recommend practicing on like GFGA and lead code, interview bit, etc., like those interview specific websites rather than code forces problem solving. But if you have a lot of time, like if you have like say a few months, then obviously you can practice on code forces.
Arpit sir?
As you said, like if you have a lot of time, you can start with code courses, and if you are completely new to the coding, then you can go to some basic websites like HackerRank or something. Then do like A2OJ. If you know what A2OJ.com, there are ladders on that. You can go there and check out you can solve a few problems, like 30, 40 problems. You will get an idea about how the things are happening in the CP, and then from that on you can practice more on code courses, give some contests so you can see where you are standing. But if you are like you have not much time, then as you said, go for interview bit and lead code. Interview bit, like if you do almost around 50-60% of the interview as well, like they have solution there as well, you will be able to solve like most of the problems in interview, not for the first coding test. For that you need practice with CP.
Yagya ma'am?
Other thing I would like to add is Like Lead Code has topic wise questions and it also has categorized it into easy, medium, and hard. So, how I did is basically I went like a topic wise syllabus. So, first of all, like binary search or something, and then sorting, and then sorry, first arrays, and then sorting and something. So, we can first try out with like if I let's suppose I start from binary search. So, I start with easy questions. When I see that I'm comfortable with easy, then I move on to medium so I can get well versed with the medium level questions in binary search. And then, first of all, let's complete all the topics like that, like then recursion, backtracking, linked trees, and all. And then, if we think that we are good, like easy and then medium level, then we can softly move on to the hard questions on lead code.
Manu ma'am?
Yeah, I think most of the content is covered by these three. So one thing I would like to add that read the GFG articles as much as you can for internships, as it helps really help. Or means it has means you can learn about time complexity and all. As it's a major thing. Like in interviews, you need to optimize your code, right? So like one approach, you should be able to learn the most optimized approach. So for most of the questions, if you're solving on lead code, that question most probably will be on GFG. So refer that also and read all the types of how it's solved on GFG. So GFG articles are also important.
There are they require optimized solutions. You have to solve under time
Yeah.
limits and time constraints. So the next question we come on that share the how was your interview experiences in coding tests with different companies. Manu ma'am?
So in Microsoft basically it has two profiles, SDE and ML. So I sat for the SDE profile, and and I had only one interview round, technical interview. So in that, first of all, he asked about my projects in the resume, all the projects which were there. So this is the important tip, that you should be thoroughly well versed about whatever is written in your resume. You should be able to explain the interviewer what all is written. And then he moved on to coding question. It was a DP plus string question, I think so. I don't remember exactly. It was a string question. You can read my interview experience. It's on TPC portal. I don't remember exactly what was the question. It was string something. So
I
he
have
asked
read it
me to
actually.
code it. At first,
I
I think I read it. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So at
Yagya ma'am?
first,
Yeah, you continue if you want to add something. Yagya, Manu ma'am, if you want to add something, just complete.
yeah. Okay. So I was saying that at first I gave him a brute force approach. So and then slowly I optimize it. So this is second tip that I want to give you, that don't, if you know the question, if you are familiar with the question, don't uh, you know try to jump on the most optimized code. Try to first give him the simpler solution and then try to reach to the most optimized solution. And communicate properly, think out loud while you are solving, as it gives the interviewer an idea about your thought process and all. Yeah.
Yagya ma'am?
Actually, didn't got the question. Can you repeat it?
Question is that what was your experience in coding rounds and tests for different companies? Like
I
what
think
type of
most
questions,
of the
what difficulties you faced during the time and time performance? What you
I think most of the questions were not much on linked list or something trees, but they were more on like graphs or DP or recursion backtracking or puzzle solving. The trees type of questions were there in interviews in which they were asking about it. So I would say that what I had a bad habit was I used to always see the test cases whenever I was wrong. So I had the problem solving type of method, like I would see the wrong test case and then I will correct the code. So what I learned is that I should be able to see all the edge cases in the first time because we don't see that in the test, right? That where my in which edge case my code is failing. So that is the thing I would like to add for competitive, like tests and all.
Arpit sir?
One of the most important things that I think one should keep in mind while giving interviews, that while preparing for it, like even if you are doing some question, like for GFG, you are doing some question for linked list or stack or key or binary tree, don't just try to read it and go past it. Try to code it once or more to see that you are actually able to write the code. So basically, in some of the linked list questions for which you have to do traversal or find the loop or something, interviewers ask those types of simple questions, but at that time they can ask you to code the whole part. So you should be able to code at that time. So try to code it. And about my interview experience, there were 3 to 4 rounds, and like all of them had a same basic approach. They asked about my project, and then they moved on to the DSA part and puzzles. Puzzles are the most important thing. Don't take them lightly. Do read about them before going for interview. Like there are 40 to 50 puzzles present on GHG. Check out them. Like they are quite simple. You just have to read them for once, and you will get the idea when they will repeat it. And like Manu said, whenever you are giving a solution for a particular problem, even if you know the solution, don't go directly to the most optimized approach. Start with the basic one and try to convey your thought process or how you are thinking to solve the problem to them. And while uh, Gagan,
Just a
can you
minute.
mute yourself?
Yeah.
So basically, don't jump to the optimized approach and keep that as a discussion instead of a viva. So whenever he asks some questions, tell him your first thought that comes to your mind about when you think that, and then move out to the most optimized approach. Tell him if we will do this, and I think we can optimize this. If I am correct, and then keep taking his review, like whether he's understanding what you are explaining to him or not. Because at the end of the day, he should be able to understand it, what you were thinking. And communication is one of the most important part. Communicate everything. Even if you are thinking something wrong, ask him that whether it is correct or not. And suppose he asks you some question which you don't know, then to the first one, convey him your first approach. And if you think you are wrong, then you can ask him for more tips. Like, I'm thinking this, but I'm stuck here. Can you tell me some more about this? Or if you're not able to understand the question, ask him again. There is no problem in that. So basically, keep it as a uh, more of a discussion instead of a viva thing, and convey your thought process as nicely as you can.
That's it. Prakhar sir, would you like to add upon?
Yeah, like not really. I don't really have much to add. And like my personal interview experience, I would say that because like I was a very experienced competitive programmer by the time, so like I found the coding test to be very easy. But like in the interviews, obviously, like you're not like, you don't just have to come up with a solution. You also have to communicate properly to the interviewer. And one more thing that I would add is that during the interviews, many times you will be asked to code your solutions. So while you're coding the solutions, make sure that your code is like properly readable to the interviewer as well. So like use proper variable names and indentation and things like that. Like don't write like very messy code, because in competitive programming people often get in the habit of naming variables like ABCD. Don't do that in the interviews. So like interviews, you use proper names, and in sometimes actually, like if you like use those names, interviewer will actually point it out that like no, don't use these, use proper names as well. So like that was one of the things that like in Google, my interviewers actually said to me that like don't use these names, use those names. So keep that in mind. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we come on to the most burning question that most of the students ask, that how much does CPI matters? Okay,
I would
Prakash
say
sir.
that, yeah, I would say that like it doesn't really matter that much. Like I had a very high CPI at the time, but like I don't think in any of the companies I was asked anything related to that. And like as long as your CPI is, I think, above 8 or something, which is necessary to like even sit for the interviews. So like yeah, as long as like you like above the cutoff, you should be fine. Like it doesn't really matter that much. Your CPI should be above the cutoff, and I think the cutoff for most companies is about 8. So yeah, 8 plus is fine.
Arpit sir.
same as you said. But in case of some companies, you won't know how they selected some people, and you think that I must have done better interview and why he got selected, and he might have better CPI. So you don't know like whether they use CPI or not. But it will be good if you keep it above it. Otherwise, you will be losing some opportunities and then blaming yourself that why I didn't do that earlier. So above it is fine. And after that, you don't know whether they will use it or not. No one asks about it later.
Yagya ma'am,
Yeah, same, same.
Manu ma'am.
Yeah, same like high CPI and low means you should maintain it above 8. 8 above 8 is good. In fact, my interviewer asked me why you have such a good CPI and why are you sitting for 420 for SD profile. You should sit for 4. So like maintain it above 8. And
We move on to the next question. What kind of skills and projects do companies value the most, and how important are they for the SD profile? And what type of questions are asked on the project? Manu.
yeah. So coming to projects, you can do projects, whatever projects you like, whatever side you like. There is no restriction like you need to do certain projects only. Means it's preferable that you, since you are sitting for SD profile, do some projects in web development or any other development. Means development side you do something you should do. I had more projects on ML side and I had only one project on development side, but still it was okay. Projects usually do not hinder your profile, but it's suggested like whichever profile you're sitting, do projects in that only. Coming to skills you should develop on your according to your projects. Means whatever language you're working on, you should be proficient in that, and any other framework or library that you have learned. Means never lie on your resume. Whatever you have written on your resume, you should be able to if anyone asks something about it, you should be able to demonstrate it. And the best way is like you demonstrate your skills using your projects. Like if you have learned React, so you should show a project in React. So it's the best way to show the interviewer like that you are good in it. So whatever side you like, it's up to you that whatever you want to do. Nowadays, so many profiles are there like AR, VR you can do, Android you can do, software, web development is there, and cloud computing is there, and machine learning is there, deep learning, whatever you want.
Yagya.
Yeah, projects like do not matter much because many of the interviews do not even ask projects. A lot of them only ask CP. But if you're mentioning the project in the resume, then you should know what have you done in the project. Like if he asks you about what was your project and what you did, then you should know it like what you did. And it should not be like copy pasted project or something, I would say. So yeah.
Arpit sir.
About projects like as they said that it doesn't matter much, but you should have some projects to show. Like some people do only one project and their CV is like empty. So whenever that will come before an interview, he will try to see that what skills he know. And if he sees only one single project, then he might see that he has not done much. So basically, 2 to 3 projects should be there. They are not supposed to be too much good. As you are in third year, they also know that you have not done much, and this is your first time you will be sitting for an actual intern or something. So basically, they do not need to be that good, but they should be there. Like 2 to 3 projects should be there, so that he will be able to judge you from that about what he knows, and accordingly he will be able to ask questions. So basically, what most of them what they say that they tell you specifically about uh, just a second. So basically, strike one or two of your projects or specifically. So most of them are from different fields. So if you made some project in machine learning and he is from some core development side, so he might know about not about your field. So he'll just ask you to explain that. You can lie on your resume as as long as you know about that thing. So basically, you can write that you have done this Django project, even if you have not done it, but you should know about it when you. So that's the main thing, and yeah. So basically, 2 to 3 projects, and you should know about them. And basically, the way you can describe is just tell him about your problem statement, what was your problem statement, and then how you thought about solving that. So what approach you thought, and then go to the tech stack. So mainly, he won't know much about the deep into the tech stack and the basic implemented there. But for like, if you go to the method part, like it was a deep learning project and you did something related to computer vision, and there are some terms like image capturing or
That's me. Prakhar sir?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I would say that having at least one SD project should be good if you are applying for an SD job. In fact, I know some friends who only had one SD project and like they were able to bag internships. So yeah, I would say that just have like a decent knowledge of your projects and no need to like include too many projects which you don't have much idea about. Even if you only have like 1 or 2 projects on your resume, it's fine. But don't have zero projects. Like yeah, don't, because a lot of interviews actually begin with a project discussion. So if you have zero projects, then yeah, it will leave a very bad impression. Have at least one project, but yeah, it's not that important.
And if someone has not done any project, so what advice can you give to him?
Yeah, so if someone has not done any project, I would say that actually you can like either copy from GitHub, but that's not a very good idea because like they might ask you some questions, especially like for example, if you have a dev project, they usually ask some questions from DBMS, like what kind of models and tables, etc. you had. So if you like just blindly copy paste it, then you won't be able to answer those questions properly. So you can like either copy from the GitHub and then go through the code, etc., and like get a basic idea of how it works and things like that. Try to run it and change a few things to see how it works. Or I think like if you're willing, if you have like some time like on a weekend, I think it will only take like 1 weekend to develop a basic Django project. So yeah, if you have like that time, I think you can like just do one very basic Django project. Like you only have to follow like a tutorial. You can easily find a tutorial for like a blog site or an e-commerce site, and yeah, just so you have something to show. Yeah, no need to like do anything complicated.
Manu
You
ma'am
can
and
just follow
Jagya,
basic.
anything to add?
Yes, he's right. Like we should have one project at least to show up, and that would be good to have a basic project at least if we don't have any right now.
Okay. So like now I will move on to the next question. So how important it is to get an internship from the placement point of view? Prakhar sir?
I mean, I don't know like how to answer this properly actually, because like I mean, for me actually like the main reason to appear for internships was that so I don't have to sit in placements, like so I get a PPO and don't have to sit for placements. So like I can't really say like how important it is
That's
for
nice.
placements.
Okay. Arpit sir, would you like to add something in this?
like same as you said, we have not yet seen the placement session, and we have just completed our interns. But I think it would matter like if an interviewer sees 10 resumes and all of them have interview experience except you, then he might go for them instead of you. So that might be the case. So it will be good to have some interview experience on your profile if you are sitting for placement. And like it won't matter much if that is in a startup or an off-campus intern or it was on campus, but it would be good if it is there instead of not being there.
Manu ma'am?
Yeah, same. Internships are, I don't know how much important they are, but I think they are mandatory in our college. I remember I received a mail from my department head that like we need it's mandatory for everyone to do a summer training or internship. Either you get internship from company or off campus, on campus, whatever, or you can do a project under a professor. That's the worst case scenario. Like when you don't receive any internship, you can do. So I think it's a kind of mandatory to receive a little bit of industry training before sitting for placements. Uh, I don't think like it's very mandatory, but uh, it's good if you have industry experience a little bit. It gives you edge over other students or other college students. Uh,
Yagyama?
Forget
I
about
think it's a good opportunity. I mean, if you can get into an internship a year before and then get a PPO, then you won't have to sit in the placement, right? It's an equal opportunity, I think, like, but if there is an internship opportunity, we should take a full advantage of it. Why wait for placements? That's what I think.
So yeah, now we move on to the question how to make an impressive CV or resume without any or much prior industry experience. So can you throw some light on that, Yagyama?
I think keep it one page first of all. Don't make it very long because nobody reads a long resume for a fresher because they don't expect we have done so much work to have a two-page resume. So first of all, have one-page resume, and there are some standards like add a timeline after every project and write them in the decreasing order, the projects and all. Skills, you should always write all the skills that you have and technologies that you have used, and some achievements if you have any on code forces or in the contest rating or something. It's good to have that. So how you formulate your resume is very, very important. It should not be very lengthy. At the same time, in the project, add some like one liner or two liner of about what you did and what exposure did you get from that project, like maybe machine learning, Python, and artificial intelligence as well. So those kind of things.
Arpit, sir?
Also add the GitHub links if you have, so that adds a lot of credibility in resume.
That's nice. Arpit, sir?
Like I think she covered most of the things. But whenever you're describing your project, keep it crisp. Like don't go for very long lines. So just mention the few main points that what you did and what was it about, and then the exposure.
Manu?
yeah, I think both of them have covered everything. I think.
Prakhar, sir?
Yeah, I would just say like in achievements you can add like Codeforces ranks or Google Kickstart ranks or things like that if you have them, or you can also like add some of like, for example, say if like you KVPY or something like that, if you had something like that, you can add them like basically just to fill stuff. Yeah. Other than that, they have basically covered everything like for projects and things like that.
You can also add your PORs if you have something significant. Just don't go for all techie side. Add something extracurricular, some bits to show that are involved in other things as well. Not just completely. Like most of the HRs will ask this question like, "What are your hobbies and all?" At that time, don't just go for the whole text like I do only this. I'm nothing other than that. Do tell them other things that like they should be able to say this is the same person and does other things as well in that perspective.
That means, and it might be interest in sports or something like that, or hobbies.
Like don't give too much space to that, but you can add a few points for that too. Like if you have some nice position in some interstate competition or in some nice, even in the ITBH, you can add this. Or if you are have you
Yeah,
hold some
and one
QR.
more thing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. One more thing I would like to add that in achievement section, if you are giving Google coding exams like CodeJam and Kickstart and Hashcode and all, do mention if you have got good ranks. Like Google does resume shortlisting, and it really helps for your resume to be shortlisted. I have seen many times. So give these exams and mention their ranks. Like if you are in top scorers, then it's very good for Google, especially.
And also,
More.
like, you can make different resumes for different profiles. Like, if you are applying for some machine learning or data scientist role, uh, try to add those projects which have relation to you, so that they are able to see that he has worked in that, and then you will have a higher chance of shortlisting yourself in that way.
That's right. So now we move on to the interview experiences. So I would like to ask that what was the weightage of competitive programming in the interview rounds? Each one of you can separately tell about your experience. Yagya, ma'am, yeah, we'll start.
Competitive programming questions are a lot of important because they get to see a lot of things about you, how clean code you write, how much clarity you have. Most importantly, how is your thinking process over there according to questions. So first of all, try start with the brute force approach, and then slowly go to the most optimized solution. And for brute force, so you should always tell. And then after that, if you're not able to get an optimized solution, then you should ask for hints from the interview. Sometimes he might give you, and then you should catch them and then move ahead. Always tell time complexity and space complexity. In my case, like, questions were on trees, questions were on linked lists, and when I was giving interview on the linked list in the Microsoft, so they wanted to check about the edge cases. How well do you cover the edge cases? Null pointer exceptions are there, and some other edge cases are there. So you should be able to cover all of them in the one go. The other thing, like, they also ask, many of the interviewers also ask the questions on arrays, because some of the interviewers have the mindset that they don't want any like high level, but they actually want to know about that, how good are you in processing and the things, and how good are you in actually solving the puzzles, right? So that's the thing. And my interview experience, I would say that be confident, don't juggle up. If you don't know, it's all right to not know, but always be optimistic and try to get the hints the interviewer is trying to give you if you are stuck at some point. And listen question very carefully. Like, it should, I have seen some people telling me that they didn't understand the question properly, so they firstly just wasted their first 20 minutes understanding the wrong question, and then they started. So that's a very bad impression to have.
Manu?
Can you repeat the question? I
Okay, okay.
didn't follow you.
Question is that as your interaction in your interview, what was the weightage of competitive programming in your interview experience?
Okay, weightage of competitive programming. Um, I see, competitive programming helps you gain experience in developing a thought process, like how do you approach a problem. So in interview you are generally given 40 to 45 minutes in which you have to think about the problem, come up with the most optimized approach, and then code it also. So all these things you have to do in those 40 to 45 minutes only, and you have to give your best shot. So here competitive programming plays a good role. Like uh, if you are practicing competitive programming from some time, that you will know how to approach a problem in the correct way. Like for example, if it's a question on DFS and you are approaching, you're not approaching it in that, you're not thinking in that direction only. So it will give a wrong impression to the interviewer. Most of the time it's not expected that you solve the problem completely and you are able to write the code, but the interviewer wants like you're thinking the right direction. Just think out loud while you are solving. Means whatever you are understanding, tell interviewer that I am thinking along these lines, and I think that this will be the correct approach to solve the problem. And even if you are stuck somewhere, ask the interviewer clarifying questions like, is this thing? Means continuously keep him involved and give your thought process. So, yeah, competitive coding comes here. And not much weightage is asked because uh, the problems are more of DSA side in interviews compared to online coding round. Coding round is mostly of competitive, but in interviews, mostly simpler level of questions are asked. Not very simple, but medium to hard level, you can say. So this is competitive part.
Arpit sir?
Like they covered most of the points that it is important that you have some practice in competitive programming. It will improve your skills and provide you more clarity about solve problems. But there may come some instances when you are solving some questions, but interviewer was thinking in a different way. So he might interrupt you like, no, I was not expecting this. Do it in that way. So don't do much of the argument at that time. Try to explain to him why you are thinking in that way, not in the other one. And in my GS interview in the first round, there was some question related to substring, longest common substring, and when I was explaining to him, he was thinking on longest common subsequence. So when I explained the whole problem, after that he pointed out to me that no, this is this. So then I corrected him. No, I was thinking about the other one, not this. And then he understood. So basically, uh, keep communication. So keep at every point try to take a review of him that whether he's understanding or not. And if he says that this is not the correct way, go for the other one. You should try for some time, but then go for the other. Like he's the interviewer there, and don't do much of the arguments. And at times, like they may ask some questions related to subjects which you don't know. Like other non-CSE students may not know much about the OS and DBMS part. So when the interviewer asks those questions, like you can say to him that I don't know all these topics, instead of taking some time and wasting it. So if you don't know, then he will go for some other topic and ask questions about them and review you. But don't waste time. And you can clearly say that I have not studied this yet. I will do this in next semester or whenever I get time, and try to show that you are open to learning new things. And even if you don't know certain topic now, you will learn it later. And while for whenever at the end of each interview part, they will ask you, do you have any questions or something? Ask some questions, so they will be happy. Like, don't go play like I don't have any questions. So you can ask about what kind of projects I will be working on if I join, and what kind of project company is working on. So basically, they may be able to see you are interested. This is not necessary, but it will be good if you have some communication other than the whole tech part is.
Prakhar sir?
Yeah, so the question was about what percentage is competitive programming, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like my personal experience, I would say around 75%, because in some companies I was only asked coding questions and like CP type coding questions. So, but in some other companies I had some project discussions and things like that as well. But overall, I would say like from my experience, about 75% of the interviews consisted of solving DSA problems.
So we move on to the next question. What to do if we get stuck on some problem during interviews? So should we simply say that I am unable to solve it, or is there a better way to handle the situation? Prakhar sir?
Yeah, so like don't like immediately say that I'm unable to solve it. First of all, like if you don't know an optimized solution, you should, I think, at least be able to come up with some kind of brute force, even if it's like a very bad complexity brute force. You should at least say that, yeah, I have this solution. And then the interviewer will obviously ask you to optimize it. Then try to optimize it. Even if you're not able to optimize it, most of the time interviewers are very friendly and will try to guide you in the right direction. Do take up on those hints and try to utilize them. And even if you're not able to, like, if you think like you need some a few moments, like for example in an interview, while solving a question, I thought that I will need about 4 or 5 minutes to like go through a bunch of test cases. So I asked the interviewer and he gave me the time, and after that I was able to solve it. So like if you need some time, you can ask for that as well. But like even after all of this, if you're not able to solve this, then yeah, I guess you can say that yeah, I'm not able to solve this. Like because then you'll be just wasting time, and if you just say that to the interviewer that you're not able to solve it, he will move on to the next question, which you might be able to solve. But don't give up immediately.
Okay.
Like what he said exactly. Like don't say no to the question. If it is related to some other topic, at that time you can say no that I don't know about this. But if it's related to DS and then go and it is solvable, then you should try to approach that, uh, and that's what he said. He covered this.
Manuma?
Yeah, same. They both have covered different.
Yagya?
Yeah, be optimistic. Like, don't just be nervous, be confident. And the way Prakhar explained the process is perfect.
Now we go to the another burning question, which mostly students have. How important are communication skills for the interview, apart from the technical and coding skills? Yagya?
I think this is most important once you know the solution, because he also sees that how good are you in explaining the approach you know, right? So it is very important to communicate what you know to the computer, to the interviewer in the right way. Like, first of all, like what are you doing and what are the edge cases that you have covered? And if the question is difficult and you're taking some time to process the solution, then it is good to walk him through your process first before coding it, so that if there is some ifs and buts, it is covered beforehand. So what you can do is, like, you can explain after the brute force approach. You can explain him what I'm thinking is this solution, and once he says that it's fine, he's satisfied with all of the things, then go on and write a code for it quickly, and tell the time complexity and space complexity as well.
Oh, Manuma?
Yeah, yeah. Communication skills are really important. Uh, always keep your interviewer uh, uh, means in contact with you. Whatever you are solving, whatever your thought process is, just think out loud and keep them involved, like whatever you are doing. Also, whenever the interview starts, any interview will start, they'll first ask you the question, tell me about yourself. So beforehand only prepare the answer whatever you are going to say. Don't stumble and don't say useless things, like I love doing this, I love dancing, I love singing. Not all these things. Do say technical things and your technical interests and whatever your you want to say means. Be crisp and in short you should be able to explain yourself. And while problem solving, same what I've told. Be communicative as much as possible, and at the end, do ask question to the interviewer. Never say that I don't have any questions. So even if it's one question, just ask. Also, if you feel that your English is not so good, give mock interviews to your friends before going sitting for any interview. I used to do this with my friends. Give mock interviews, so it will just help you practice it once.
Nice. Arpit, sir?
Like they said that I think communication is very important. Like even if you have solved the question, if you are not able to communicate it, it's no good. So and like the last thing she said about English. So basically, it is not completely necessary to go to worry about that you have to speak in English only. If you are trying to explain something, you can shift a bit to Hindi. Like the main thing is explaining. Like they won't mind much. Like it will be good if you are explaining in English, but if there is some at you're at a point of time that you're not able to explain that in English, you can explain some bits in Hindi as well. That is fine, I think. And also like the as we explained earlier that whenever you are explaining some problem, try to communicate as much as possible, every little bit, and like before coding, explain your approach to them so you don't go for the wrong thing. That's it. And like I'm not sure, but I've seen that the people who are interviewing you mostly are looking you for their own team. So basically, they you might go work with them. So it is better to ask them questions like what kind of projects they work on and what is his profile and those things. And from that, they can see that you are interested in joining them. So even if you might do wrong in some questions, like you don't answer one DSA question, but if you they see that you are interested and confident as well, and be confident. Like if you know something, then be confident and say that this is the thing and this is the approach. Like don't fumble much, and like you can practice if you need.
Prakhar sir?
I don't really have much to add. I would say that yeah, they have basically covered everything. You should be confident in your interface, and yeah, having a like a certain level of proficiency in English so you can communicate your ideas is I think necessary. I would not recommend like switching to Hindi or anything like that. But like if like for example now because you do not have much time left, so if you think like you can't like communicate in English properly, then yeah, I guess like in that scenario you can go for Hindi. But like otherwise, I would suggest sticking to English. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, they have covered everything.
So now I will move to the last segment of today's session. For upcoming second year or third year IDD students, what will you set for a balance between project versus competitive program? So, can you throw some light on it, Prakhar sir?
Yeah, I would say like just like I said, you only need like one or two projects and you can do them in like very short interval of time. Especially if they are ST projects. For ML projects, you might need some more time, but like for ST projects, you can do them in like you can do two projects in like a week. So yeah, you should dedicate most of your time to competitive programming and like solving code versus problems. And later on, like when the internship phase gets nearer, then you can switch to solving GFG, lead code, etc.
Manu ma'am?
Yeah, like you said that they about second year IED students, right? So now I would recommend that they should do competitive programming as much as they can and become proficient in them in that. And once it is done, then you can do projects. But for now, focus on competitive programming first, and then move on to projects.
Arpit sir?
Like they said, go for competitive programming, dedicate most of your time for that. DSL go on competitive. But you can do SG projects in a week or something. And it also differs based on profile. Like this for SDO, if you are applying for some other profile, like as a data science or anything else level profile, then you need to have some good projects to show them. Like they don't, they won't go for competitive programming contest. So you should keep that in mind if you are thinking about applying for the profiles.
Okay. Yagya ma'am?
I think it depends on your choice. Like if you have, first of all, you should be decent in coding. And then if you feel like you want to do competitive programming because you like it, then you should go either way but I like doing projects more. So I shift over there. But first you should have a decent knowledge of, competitive programming and then choose it based on your interest.
So now we come to the last question of today's session. What will be your advice and tips for the upcoming second year? That is the one who have completed the second semester, the freshers. Yagya, we'll start.
I think they should start doing coding if they haven't yet started yet. It is a good idea because you will need it all your life in a software engineering. Even if you're going to do a profile switching after 4 or 5 years of software engineering, there will be coding interviews over there as well. So, and it's not a good idea to start at the end moment when you can start prior to it. So, giving an hour or 1.5 hour daily would be good enough. You can just solve 1 or 2 questions daily, and at the end of the year, you will have a good practicing over it. And simultaneously, if you think that you're interested in projects and you want to do it, then it's good to do it. Yeah.
Arpit sir?
I think if you are at the end of second semester, it will be good to start competitive. If you want to go for SD profile, and if you're not sure yet, then start doing a bits of coding, competitive programming, for courses in bits and all. But you can also explore. You can try your hands at different things. Go for machine learning, deep learning, SD, you can do web development, Android development, whatever you want. You have a lot of time since then. You can explore as much as you want in the third semester. But when you are in the fourth semester, you should if you want to go for SD, then you should completely go into competitive programming as much as you can. Dedicate your time to that. But at the end of second semester, you can explore, but also start doing that. Like you cannot you can give some contests like every week there are 1 or 2, so that won't take much of your time, or at the same time you'll get acquainted to the competitive programming side of that.
Okay, that's nice. Manohar?
Yeah. So for the students, I would say that first of all, you should explore all the options. Like there are many options, and once you have finally decided that you want to sit for SD profile, then first I would suggest start from code forces and do little bit of CP. But if you find it boring, then do small projects and alongside do DSA. So that it would develop interest in coding. And once it is done, improve means improve the increase the time that you spend on competitive coding and all. So you have to focus on CP at this time, but just for developing interest, you can do small projects in web dev and like small projects. So it will help you.
Okay, that should be okay. Prakash sir?
Yeah, I would say that you have a lot of time. So like you should try to explore, and if you are sure that you want to go for SD profiles, then yeah, you should start coding. And for coding, I think let's say like you can start participating in code versus contests, but if you find them too difficult, you can switch to HackerRank. I personally started with HackerRank myself, and like the questions on them, especially the easy ones, are very beginner friendly. Code forces actually is not that beginner friendly, so you should start on HackerRank and then later on move to code forces when you're comfortable. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, with this we come to the end of the session. Now for the next 15-20 minutes, we will try to take up questions from the audience. So please type your questions in the chat box. I will take them now. So the first question here is, what is the opinion on the CSES problem set? We all are quite familiar with it. Any one of you can answer, or you want to add something?
I done some of those questions. I think they are good if you have completed like most of like you are proficient in competitive programming and you have done most of the part of your DSA. Then go for them. They are nice questions, and most of them are solvable only if you know the most optimized approach. So I think they are good, but don't go directly to them. You won't be able to solve some of them, and then you might worry. So basically, go for GFG, interview it, and after that you can go to them. And if you want to have some live graph or DP questions, then you can definitely go there.
Else wants to add something?
Yeah, I personally have solved like most of the CSS problems, and I found the problems actually to be very good. They are actually standard problems, so they don't require a lot of ad hoc thinking, especially like the ones which are categorized under certain topics like TP, etc. And I would say like some problems are actually like out of the scope of interviews. Like for example, there are some tough problems, but on the other hand, there are a lot of very standard problems. Like there are some knapsack DP and coin sum and things like that. And on the graph sets as well, there are some like very basic connected components type problem. So the thing is that on code, if you try to like find these types of problems on code forces, those problems will actually involve some kind of ad hoc thinking as well, whereas the problems that are asked in interviews are mostly standard type problems. So for that, I would say that CSS is actually like a very good resource for that, and I would recommend going for it once, like say for example, if you learn a particular algorithm or some standard problems, then you should try to find it on CSS and you should try to solve that. Yeah, CSS is actually very good for that, for standard problem practice.
Manu ma'am or Yagya, would you like to say something?
I think he has covered all.
So next question here is, can you give some examples of project sets?
Web development.
Can you repeat?
Can you give some example of project sites? He has not mentioned about specific project or which type of project. Yeah. Like web development or app development. Whatever you can say.
There are different things. So you can have a project in anything: web development, Android development, ML, DL, even if it is some nice implementation thing. You can go for web scraping, you can make some Chrome extensions. Like you can make anything, but it should be like a small project or something. And there are also new things that AR, VR, and all. Like it is not necessary to have project in some particular field. You will be doing a completely different work when you will go to a certain company. So they should be able to see that you have done some nice work there. Like it should not be like this. This is a face recognition code, and I copied this from YouTube. So make some substantial thing. Like it should be seen as that you have put some work into it, and when you are explaining that, explain it that way too. That what problems you tackle while solving that. So yes.
So next is, how much time should we spend in for competitive programming if we wanna go for machine learning as a career? Anyone can speak on this?
I mean, you can have a basic idea first of all of what the topics are. So if you're not really good, if you really don't want to do competitive programming and it doesn't look too good to you a lot of time, so then you can do the topic wise questions like on HackerRank or on LeetCode or on GFG practice things, and give weekly one contest or bi-weekly one or two contests. Lead code contests are as well good because they have a good platform. So machine learning is good to have, but do one or two questions. I would say at least one or two questions a day would be good enough.
Anyone else would like to add?
Yeah,
Like
I would like
if,
to.
go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. So many companies have coding rounds for SD profile and ML profile. The coding round is same. So I think that even if you are sitting for ML profile, you should do CP. So lead code, yeah, as Yagya said, lead code is a very good platform. If you're from ML side and you don't prefer CP much, do lead code contests, and you should be able to solve easy to medium level questions. That would be it.
So the next question is, okay, anyone wants to say that?
Uh, I think if you will see on the on campus opportunities, there are
Yes.
deep learning or just a second. So basically, we will see on campus opportunities. There are not many companies which come for that. So don't worry if you are completely interested in ML or DL. You can go for off campus opportunities as well. I know many people who have bagged internships in different fields in MLDL as well. So like programming
next is how much did branch and CGPA matters in internships and placements? Any one of you can unmute this. Like especially for non-circuital branches, it might be a focus, and it is a little.
Yeah, for internships, especially most of the companies are open for the circuitry branches like CSC, MNC, ECE, and EEE. Few of them are only open for CSC, but most of them are for these. And what a good amount of companies come for rest of the non-circuitry branches also. So it's a good chance that you are able to get internships on campus. So there's nothing to worry, but just give your coding exams nicely. I have seen that for the companies which are open for many branches like non-circuitous also, their coding round is really tough and shortlisting is very ad hoc type of thing. Means children are able to solve all the questions, still they are not shortlisted. So the shortlisting might be a bit biased, but you are allowed to sit for exams and all, and you can get in touch if you have done a good level of preparation.
Anyone else wants to add? I will move. Okay, so is one of the question is it fine to learn only one language, either C++ or Java?
Like if you are proficient in that and if you are able to solve problems, then I think it would be fine. Like most of the people go for C++, and like this is their main problem solving area. So I think it will be fine. But in case of Java or Java, it's fine. You should just be able to solve your problems. Language won't matter much. Like if you the interviewer also like won't ask you to code in a specific language, except for some companies like Oracle or one more, like they focus on Java too much in their test as well. They give certain options between C, Java, and they won't go Python and all. So like it won't matter much, but you should know the language. Even if you are going for one language, you should know that nicely that you are able to solve all the problems in that.
Anyone else? Yagya ma'am, Manu ma'am, and Prakhar sir.
Yes. Language doesn't matter. You should know. And because you can have a project and then you can code also in Java, so it's good enough. Language doesn't matter.
So the next question is how hard should non-circuital students work to get good internships?
Very hard. Like it's same for all of them. But I think if you are confident and like if you have done your part, you have done nice competitive programming and you have some good projects, then it won't matter much. You will it may take some time that you can see that there was some biasing earlier. A CSE student might get placed instead of you, but you will also get placed. Don't worry about that. There's a long this session is quite long. That it's not just for first 2 weeks. Companies keep coming for around a month or 2 months. Even after that, and even after that, some companies come, and there are also many off-campus opportunities as well. So like, don't worry. You just need to do your part, do competitive programming, and make some projects if you want to go for LC profile.
So then next is okay. Does Python is recommended for CP? What will you recommend Python for doing CP?
I personally won't.
Arpit sir?
And the reason for that is actually Python does not have, as far as I know, Python does not have balanced binary search trees in the standard library, and that is something that is required for solving some of the problems. So for that, actually, I would say that you should either go for C++ or Java.
Yeah, C++ has a powerful STL. Okay. Are there any more questions?
I agree with you.
Okay. Audience, please
Yeah,
put
and
more
for
questions.
CP, learn a
Yes.
object-oriented programming, object-oriented language like C++ or Java. Python is not object-oriented.
Python is object
If it
oriented
is,
actually.
sorry, okay. If it is, then you should, but prefer object-oriented language. I don't know Python. So I think
So, since there are no more questions, we'll wait for 5 minutes, or then we'll end this session. Okay. So, question is website for projects of SD profile. Can you name some of them?
What is the question?
Like,
He is asking for names of websites for projects
like
which they want to build in
I
SD profiles.
like I don't know if
Like
there are
I
some
think My
specific
Code
websites
School
for
or something
these,
like
but
that.
uh, my coach. Basically, I think there was someone in electrical branch who built a whole repo of all the projects which all different people in our institute have done. So there are around 150 to 200 projects there. So you can check that out. I think some of you may know about that. Ask your friends. But,
Anyone else?
I mean, first decide the topic on which you want to do the project. And if you're not confident about like what to do, then you can start up with anything basic, maybe like machine learning basic project or maybe Django project or maybe website front end something. And once you're good with it, and then you can try on exploring other things. There are many projects on YouTube once you know the topic you want to do the project on.
So yeah, there is one more question. That how to introduce yourself in interviews? Like how to be a little bit technical and tell us about the whom they are there, the interviewer. You can share your own interview experience. That how to introduce yourself. What all points to keep in mind.
like while introducing yourselves, try to keep it more technical. Telling about your interest, field of interest, like if you work in some specific field development, machine learning, deep learning, or data science, whatever. So, and then in my uh, in my interviews, I went like this. I introduced myself, then I explained in my some field of interest, like I have done projects in this and all this, and I like this, and then I have this project in my profile. You can see it there, and then I started explaining it. So,
Prakhar sir, would you like to add something?
No, I mean, I used to introduce myself similar to like how Arpit said. So like start with basic things like who you are, where you're from, your branch, things like that. And after that, you can move on to like some of your hobbies, etc. if you want to mention. And coincidentally, my hobbies were also competitive programming. So yeah, so like I included it in just like, so I didn't have to like mention it separately. But yeah, and you can also mention some of your achievements. Like for example, I appeared for ICPC. So if you have some of those achievements, you can mention that in introduction as well. And yeah, and after that you can just switch to explaining your projects.
Yeah, Gyan.
Yeah, I mean, they have covered the things, but keep it short. I would say that don't keep it too long. Keep it 2 to 3 minutes and keep it very prepared because that's the first impression. I won't say that um, it's like okay, but a lot of people matlab, believe in that first impression is the last impression or something. I don't believe in this thing, but it's a good thing to have a good intro prepared as well.
Manuma.
so introduce first about yourself, and then tell something about your technical interests, and then problem to interview.
The next question, which should I give more preference to, projects or CP, to get an edge if I have basic requirements met in both? Like if one has equal command and basic knowledge of both projects and development in CP. So then, whom should he give more preference? Anyone of you can answer.
Yeah, comparative programming, obviously.
Arpit sir?
Same.
Manuman?
Yeah, CPU.
Yeah, क्या था?
I think we both agree.
Yeah, we'll wait for 5 minutes. If there are no more questions, then we will be ending the session.
Yash Bhaiya, can I ask a question now? I'm not able to
Yeah,
type in the chat.
sure. You can.
Hi, Bhaias and Didis. So I've just finished my first year and I'm going to go to my second year. My question is, so till what level do I have to do? Like, let's say if I'm seeing levels as ranks or rating in Code Forces, what do you think will be an optimal level to leave Code Forces at that rating and work on some projects or any other thing which is recommended?
I think above 1500. I think. Like at that, like if you are able to do C question of the div 2, then I think you are in a nice place, and you can focus on other things as well. But don't leave that. Keep practicing. Like if you will leave that for 1 or 2 months, then you will see nice results.
So do I only concentrate on particularly this CP, like on Code Forces, and or do I do some additional projects? Like, should I switch over to ML, or do I only concentrate on SD if I want to?
It's completely up to you. It won't matter much, but you should have some projects. Like if you're interested in doing web development or something, you should definitely go for that. Like if you are at the end of your first year, like you have so much of time, so dedicate a few hours a week for CP, and then you can do other extra videos. So you don't have to be completely in for one thing.
Thank you, man.
Anyone else wants to ask a question? They can unmute themselves. It is not a problem. Otherwise, we are reaching to the end of the session. I will wait for 2-3 minutes. Any questions?
I would question.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Ask.
So I wanted to ask, like, to grab a good internship. Do we need to have a good hold on CPDSA and doing at least 1-2 projects? Will that work for good internships?
Yeah, I think that should be good. But apart from that, in the final few days, you will also have to like study some like operating systems and object-oriented programming and things. But like those are like not like very difficult topics, and they're basically rote memorization. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, like having a decent level of competitive programming experience and 1 or 2 projects should be sufficient.
Okay, we.
I also have a question. How in to which depth should we study the operating systems concepts? Like, should we just go through the basics and definitions, or should we actually go for implementations and
No.
implementations of various algorithms and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, you don't need to implement the algorithms or solve numericals or anything like that, because those are almost never asked. But you should like go through the definitions obviously and have like a basic level of understanding of the concepts, because sometimes in interviews they will ask you some type of conceptual questions based on them. So like you shouldn't just like memorize the definitions, but you should understand them. But yeah, no need to solve like implement the algorithms or solve numericals or anything like that.
Thank you.
Same, and you can refer to Gates specials and all. There's some YouTube channels from where you can go and understand some concepts. Basically, you can go till I think semaphores and all and deadlock gates. those parts. But you should be able to understand what you're saying. Just not do it fast.
I do have a
first.
first. Yeah, sure. Ask.
Yeah, my another doubt I have is I'm from ECE, so what additional things do I do that so that I can compete with the CSE students? I mean, like, because their portion is something, will it be something that will be a part of the interview or the internship? What the CSE students learn? Is it something that I need to do extra as an ECE student?
No,
I
not
think
extra like
basic.
OS and basics of SQL require a lot of time.
Yeah, OS
But
and basic
if,
SQL.
if
That's it.
Thank you.
and
I
OOTS
do
is
have a
very
person.
necessary.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I do have a personal question. Okay. Are operating systems asked in tests like multiple choice questions, or are they also covered in the test for qualifying for interviews for some companies, or it is only
Yes.
3 questions?
Yes, some companies do ask. Walmart asked last year. It was one of the companies, and I believe some other companies as well asked. I think Goldman Sachs, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember, but I do remember Walmart asks.
Like some companies ask.
So yeah, that's all for the session. My deepest thanks
I
to
have
all
one
the
last.
pan. Okay, ask.
Do we need to have prior knowledge about GitHub and Linux, etc. for internships at least?
No.
No.
Not
No.
for interviews. No.
Okay.
Like I can tell you myself, last year when I appeared for internships, I had no idea how GitHub worked or even Git worked or anything like that. And like, I, I don't think I ever used Linux either, like on my own system. I used it on other computers, but not on my own. Yeah.
Okay, Bhaiya. Thank
Any more questions? Yes, now I will end the session. Okay, so with this we have come to the end of the session. My deepest thanks to the panel members, Manu ma'am, Arpit sir, Yagya ma'am, and Prakhar sir for their time, and surely we have learned today a lot and get an insight of how to prepare it for coding test and interviews. And I wish them all the best for their final year journey and their life after college. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
You did great.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
All
job.
the best.
Bye.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.